Breaking news comes from Manchester United, and we are about to hear some quotes from an apology by the co-chairman and director, Joel Glazer. A bit of a background, you'll all remember the scenes on Sunday, a protest ahead of Manchester United's game with Liverpool, which was then postponed. These are those scenes. There was also an open letter from the Manchester United Supporters Trust, which called on the club's owners to respond to them by today. Well, they have responded today. Sky News tried to speak to Avram Glazer, didn't they, out in America? He didn't say anything, but Joel Glazer has now written this letter back to the Manchester United Supporters Trust. The whole response, by the way, is 706 words long. I'll read you out some of the highlights, but do stay with us because there's plenty here to get through. So Joel Glazer says, I was personally humbled by parts of your letter as you explained so clearly why our initial support for the European Super League left you feeling angry and let down. I would like to reiterate my sincere apology for the mistakes that were made. Okay, so this is an apology by Joel Glazer. He says, I want to acknowledge the need for change with deeper consultation with you as our main fan representative body across a range of important issues, including the competitions we play in. We recognise the importance of fan and football interests being embedded in key decision-making processes at every level of the club, and we are open to constructive discussions on how to reinforce that principle. So there's the apology, and they go on in a bit more detail, Joel Glazer does. I want to reassure you that my family and I care deeply about Manchester United and feel a profound sense of responsibility to protect and enhance its strength for the long term, while respecting its values and traditions. He says one of the clearest lessons in the past few weeks is the need for us to become better listeners. To this end, I can commit the club will engage across all of the issues raised in your letter. That's the letter by the Manchester United Supporters Trust. We'll get more on that in a moment, by the way. Glazer also says he will willingly engage in the government-initiated fan-led review of football, describing it as a positive opportunity to explore new structures for fan engagement and influence. And this response from Joel Glazer does conclude with this little paragraph. These commitments are a starting point for further dialogue, including all the specific points you raised, rather than final proposals. We want to work together to come up with an ambitious package of measures which will transform our relationship with fans and strengthen the club for the long term. In this spirit, we will reach out to members of the forum to schedule a meeting in which I shall participate as soon as possible after the final game of the season. So there's a little time frame on a potential meeting there. So that's the response from Joel Glazer. It was a response to an open letter from the Manchester United Supporters Trust. Interestingly, there was an apology and a willingness to engage with fans in the future, which is what Manchester United fans have wanted for a significant amount of years now. And this is the response that we've just received from the Manchester United Supporters Trust, who wrote that letter in the first place. They say the response could, in theory, and we emphasise in theory only, be a change in direction and approach by the owners versus their silence and disregard for communication over the last 16 years, which is when they took over at the club. We will, however, determine our position based on the resulting actions rather than these words alone. We have seen empty words too many times previously. We will seek a mandate from our members and from the wider fan base before proceeding. We only wish to engage in this process should our supporters want us to. Through all of this, our goals remain the same, and as set out in the open letter to Joel Glazer, we want a new Manchester United with a meaningful shareholding for supporters and a meaningful say in key areas. This is our objective, and there will be no let-up until we get there. All right, so tentatively positive is what the Manchester United Supporters Trust are saying, but they do actually use the word emphasise that only in theory could this be a change in approach and direction by the owners. So first of all, an apology from Joel Glazer on behalf of the owners, a willingness to engage with supporters in the future, and then that response there from the Manchester United Supporters Trust. We will have more on this throughout the afternoon and evening here on Sky Sports News.